Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast. This is episode 9, Safety Data Sheets. Today's episode will only talk about the physical and chemical properties found also in Section 9. Let's get started. So, Section 9, Physical and Chemical Properties. Some chemicals are pure in nature, others are a mixture. Others, of course, you will find where it's a mixture, but yet it's going to be several percentages, and it may have a range. It may have a lower range, it may have an upper range. So it's really important that we also understand the physical and chemical properties of this when we sit down, because many times we are just looking at the chemical, and one of the first things it talks about is the appearance, physical state. Is it a color? Liquid, gas, is it going to be blue, black, clear? It then goes into things like upper and lower explosive limits. Does it have an odor, vapor pressure, odor threshold, vapor density? All these will help us to figure out, obviously, if it's going to burn, if it's not going to burn. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, we're working in a lab and it's left in an open container, and the lab is at a 70 degrees ambient. Are the fumes going to come out? Are they not going to come out, depending upon the chemical properties? And then when the fumes come out, are they heavier than air, lighter than air? Is there going to be an odor to it? So this really kind of helps us to sit down and understand, make sure that we're really handling that property, and we know exactly what we're doing and what it looks like. There's a lot of chemicals that look clear, and that's why that one of the big things I harp on with hazard communication is that no matter what you find, the chemical has to have a label on it. Even if it's water, it's got to have a label on it, because if it's clear, it's clear. Is it acid? Is it solvent? Is it all that stuff? Let's go on to the next slide here then. So we also, it will also talk about the pH. So is it going to be neutral? Is it going to be more on the acid side, more on the base side? And then with that, of course, we can also determine things like, this will help us out to figure out what gloves that we're going to wear. It'll also get into the melting point, freezing point, and soluble. Is it going to mix well with water? Is it going to settle towards the bottom of the beaker, float on the top? A lot of chemicals will just naturally mix and do a great job. Others, of course, do everything they can to stay to themselves, sink to the bottom, float to the top then. So look at the next slide here. This also gets into things that will help us out to determine where the fumes will go. Boiling point, the boiling range, flash point. Is there a auto ignition temperature? And is there also a evaporation rate? This is typically compared to water, with using water as 1. So obviously anything on either range, it evaporates faster or it evaporates slower than water. And then finally, we get into things like in the flammable state. Is it flammable in all states, solid or gas, or is it just flammable in one state? Viscosity. It also talks about the decomposition temperature then. So is it going to be a solid and really good at 70 degrees, and once it hits 100, it'll start to melt? So it really helps us out to understand these things. And then, of course, the catch-all is on the SDS itself. They're only going to have that data for the things that are going to apply. It's really hard to find one chemical that's going to have every single thing that's filled out, since not all chemicals burn, not all chemicals are going to have a pH. And so they're only going to give you the data for the chemical itself. So don't be surprised if many of the areas are blank or it says NA on it, because they're only going to address what's there. And that is it for this episode. Short and sweet. Episode 9, Safety Data Sheets. So we sat down and talked about also Section 9 of the SDS's physical and chemical properties. Please tune in for more of these very short episodes. Thanks and have a safe day.